She did not flinch, did not recoil, did not rise from her seat. Instead, she remained exactly where she was. Calm, still. The weight of the moment seemed to settle around her, but not on her. Her posture did not change. Her breathing did not quicken. If anything, she appeared more composed than before. And slowly, almost deliberately, she lifted her gaze. Not sharply, not with alarm, but with the quiet steadiness of someone who understood that panic was a luxury she could not afford. Her eyes met his, and held. The courtroom watched as time stretched thin. Seconds felt longer. He stood armed. She remained seated. Between them, an invisible line drawn by something deeper than fear. The camera of perception, every mind in the room, seemed to move closer to her face. To the absence of panic. To the refusal to yield. Because no one understood. Why would he do this? What could possibly drive a man entrusted with law to threaten its embodiment? What had been said? What had been decided? What had tipped the balance from order to confrontation? Questions spiraled silently through the room. But none found answers. The police chief's expression shifted. A hint of satisfaction. Of expectation. As if he anticipated movement. Submission. A break in the calm. But it did not come. Instead, the judge's hand moved. Not quickly. Not dramatically. A small motion. Measured. Controlled. Her fingers lifted slightly from the bench, just enough to be seen. A gesture that seemed less like reaction, and more like signal. No words followed. But her lips moved. A quiet formation of syllables no one could hear. The absence of sound made it more unsettling. Because whatever she was saying, it wasn't for him. The police chief's brow tightened for the briefest moment. Not enough to betray uncertainty, but enough to suggest something had shifted. The atmosphere changed. Subtly. Like pressure building before a storm. No one spoke. Yet tension thickened. The kind that made the air heavy in the lungs. The kind that made stillness feel temporary. The gallery watched, trapped between disbelief and dread. Some leaned forward unconsciously. Others sat rigid, as if movement might shatter whatever fragile balance remained. The bailiff's hand hovered. A clerk's pen trembled. And still, she did not rise, did not plead, did not react with fear. Instead, she watched him. Not as a victim, but as someone assessing a decision already made. The police chief adjusted his stance, the movement slight but noticeable. Confidence still present, but no longer absolute. Because something in the room had changed. Something he could feel, even if he could not yet name. Behind him, unnoticed at first, eyes began to meet. Silent exchanges. Questions without words. Understanding passing between trained professionals who recognized authority in forms beyond rank. The judge's hand lowered slowly back to the bench. Her gaze never leaving his. And in that moment, the realization began to form. Whatever he thought this act would accomplish, whatever control he believed the weapon gave him, he had misunderstood the room, misjudged the balance, misread the calm, because the stillness he saw as submission was something else entirely. And as the silence deepened, as disbelief gave way to anticipation, one truth settled quietly over the courtroom. He had crossed a line, and he was about to regret it. The silence did not break. It evolved. What had begun as shock was now becoming something more complex, something heavier. Understanding. The police chief stood with the weapon still raised, his posture firm, his jaw set with the certainty of a man who believed he had seized control of the moment. Up close, his confidence was unmistakable. His eyes were steady, his breathing even. There was no tremor in his hand. This was not a gamble to him. It was a declaration. A message sent not just through words, but through dominance. The badge on his chest gleamed beneath the courtroom lights, a symbol he had worn for years. A symbol that had opened doors, ended arguments, silenced opposition. To him, it meant authority. And authority meant immunity. The room was supposed to bend. The system was supposed to yield. and for a fleeting second it seemed as though it had. No one rushed him. No one shouted. No one moved. But the stillness was no longer empty, because across from him, elevated, composed, unwavering, the judge remained seated. Unshaken. Her calm had not fractured, had not even thinned. Instead of retreating from the threat, she leaned forward. The movement was slow, deliberate, intentional. It drew every eye in the room, because it was not the reaction anyone expected. Not fear, not resistance, not surrender. It was authority. She spoke. Her lips moved with clarity and precision, the tone firm, though unheard. And yet, the meaning carried, because her words were not meant to echo through the room. They were meant to settle it. Her hands followed, not in panic, not in defense, but in controlled gestures. Measured, purposeful. The kind of gestures that belonged not to someone reacting to chaos, but to someone directing its end.